ever learned something by heart? A poem, a speech, a musical piece, your lines in a play? Practice, study, and hard work help. But there's a difference between memorizing something and learning it by heart. Writer and preacher Kay Northcutt tells a story from when she was a professional pianist living in Tennessee, teaching piano lessons through a federal enrichment program to Appalachian children who were living in poverty. The program was designed to show these children through music that the world is full of possibilities that they might not have otherwise known were available to them. Many of her students had no running water or heat source other than a wood stove in their homes. And so they certainly did not have a piano. Sometimes their parents would, as they said, carry them to church to practice on the piano there. But because they did not have pianos to practice on at home, their progress was typically slow. But then there was a girl named Becky. At her 5th lesson, Northcutt played a Bach minuet on the school's piano to show Becky what it sounded like. The next week, Becky came in, sat down at the piano, and played that same Bach minuet perfectly. As Northcutt said, the music was pouring out of this child. It wasn't only that the notes were right, she was making music. So she asked Becky, "Did your daddy carry you to church to practice?" "No, ma'am," said Becky. My daddy came up here to the school and looked at the piano, and he made me a play piano on cardboard that I stretch across the kitchen table to practice on." Northcutt was dumbfounded, as you can imagine, and asked, "So Becky, if you can't hear the notes that you're playing, if the play piano doesn't actually make any sound when your fingers play on it, how exactly did you learn this piece?" "Oh, I learned it by heart, ma'am." Becky learned it by heart, not through weeks and weeks of practice. Remarkable? Yes. Typical? No. Even many of the most gifted musicians are not capable of this. But the reason I share this story is not to make you feel inferior to Becky's brilliance, but to get at what it really means to learn by heart. Learning by heart is an embodied process that happens from the inside out. You learn something by heart by listening with your heart and committing it to that place. It happens through relationship, not through content conveyed or delivered through eyes and ears. As Northcutt said, Becky had listened carefully, committing it to that remarkable, powerful place ancient Hebrew people called the heart. Becky had learned it using her heart, mind, soul, strength, and will. The youth that we are celebrating and blessing today are at an age marked by the quest to know thyself, to get at what is really at the heart of things. In their coming of age year, we challenge them to really dig into this, to reflect on who they are and who they want to be, and the ways Unitarian Universalism has shaped their identity. And the youth who are graduating and moving into the next chapter of their lives as young adults will carry on this process of self-discovery and self-definition, a journey that, as we know, continues into adulthood, right? The writer Lovey Ajayi Jones said, "To know ourselves is to write our values in cement, even if our goals are in sand." Goals are written in sand because they are ever evolving and shifting and growing. This has certainly been my experience as I've moved through youth and young adulthood and now what is called middle adulthood, I guess. When we set our goals on something too solidly, it sometimes restricts our vision of what's possible. We must remain flexible and agile as the sand shifts underneath our feet. But with the shifting sands underneath us, we must remain grounded and rooted in who we are, our values, and what is at our core. This is what it means to write your values in cement. As Jones says, to know thyself is to know not only who I am, but whose I am. Whose are you? To what beyond yourself are you connected? To family and ancestors? To community? To the human family? To the earth? To the God of your understanding? If our goals are written in sand and our values in cement, I would add that our faith commitments are written on the heart. Not that beliefs can't change as we learn and grow, that's not what I'm saying. But each of us has certain abiding principles that are core to our commitments and our way of being in the world. I can trace some of my own abiding principles back to when I was your age in 9th grade, when I too shared a coming of age reflection with my congregation. I was inspired by what Anne Frank wrote in her diary when she was my same age, your same age, living in hiding from the Nazis. She wrote, "It's really a wonder that I haven't dropped all my ideals, because they seem so absurd and impossible to carry out. Yet I keep them, because in spite of everything, I still believe people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes," she says, "on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again." To this day, I, Beth Dana, still believe at my core that people are good at heart. We are born with an original goodness which is too often corrupted by the world, leading to destruction and war and suffering. And yet, I have an abiding faith that it can be otherwise. This faith commitment to seeing the original good-heartedness of every person is also core to our Unitarian theology, part of what has defined us. Unitarian Universalism is written on my heart, and I know it is written on many of yours too. And while being surrounded by like-minded and like-hearted people is great, I have found that being in religiously diverse communities has helped deepen my understanding of what that means. On the first day of my preaching and worship class at a Christian seminary, with everyone from Unitarians to Baptists to Presbyterians and Episcopalians and agnostics, each student was given a little slip of paper with a Bible passage on it. The assignment was to get up in front of the class right then and there and to say what first comes to mind about that passage and how we might use it in a sermon or a worship service. My passage was Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 9. Just after Moses speaks of the oneness of God and the great commandment to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. My verses were these: "Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children and talk about them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Fix them as an emblem on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." I breathed a sigh of relief when I read my slip of paper because I had heard this one before. It was the Shema, a central prayer of Jewish services. As a Unitarian Universalist and for someone for whom covenant is central, this passage was one that I could relate to. We hold our covenant in our heart. We recite it to our children in religious education. It infuses our lives when we are at home and when we are away, when we lie down and when we rise up. We carry it in our bodies, and some of us do have it posted in our homes. I thought about this last Sunday as I watched the children's choir sitting here in the first couple of pews saying the words of our affirmation, our covenant, confidently and loudly and proudly. And I thought about this 2 weeks ago when our guest, Aurora Levens Morales, read an excerpt from one of her poems based on the Shema. She wrote, "Say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorposts, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders. Teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep. Here, in the cruel shadow of empire, another world is possible." Another world is possible. Kay Northcutt showed this to her students, children living in poverty, that the world is full of possibilities for them. Aurora Levens Morales has this written on her heart, that here in the cruel shadow of empire, another world is possible. How do we know this? Because whether it's the Shema or the Salah or the Lord's Prayer or the affirmation, we learn these prayers by heart, by listening and committing them to that place of will, intention, and strength. It becomes a part of us. But then comes another challenge. How do we talk about that and share with others what is written on our heart? I know this is a challenge because I hear it from so many of you, young and old, brand new to Unitarian Universalism and lifelong Unitarian Universalists. You love this church and this faith with every fiber of your being, but still struggle to talk about and articulate what it's about and what it means to you. Our ninth graders work hard on this all year. Our youth practice this when they move around Dallas and travel on pilgrimages to other cities. Adults explore this in the UU elevator speech class that we offer every summer and practice it as they serve in the wider community. Seniors who are graduating this month, I ask you, when you move into new spaces in the next year, how will you talk about this place and what is written on your heart? How will you remain connected to this community and to your faith? The world is like a big shifting sand dune right now, and we all need roots, pillars of cement, and commitments of the heart to guide us. We need each other. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, in a letter to a young activist in troubled times, wrote, "One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it." So my hope for you, the youth of this church sitting here up front, and for all of you of all ages here today, is that you have caught some of that light from other souls here, and that you will pass it along to others. Share with the world the lantern of your soul and the wisdom that you have learned by heart, which is written there in that place of strength, intention, and will. May it ever be so, and amen.